Welcome to the Live Courageously podcast show, episode 73. I'm your host, John Duffy, and Live Courageously has been the conscious theme of my life for the last 3 years since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, and an unconscious theme for most of my life. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. There's something contagious about someone who is courageous. So today's show is with a longtime friend and a courageous and adventurous guest, Ted Shred. Ted started out playing drums in several rock bands in Phoenix, Arizona in the early 80s. His love of the rock music scene in Hollywood led him through numerous bands in LA. He then pursued music through radio, taking a gig on Westwood One and pirate radio in LA and syndicated radio shows worldwide, including the Armed Forces Radio. Ted got hired to be a stand-in and extra for Steven Tyler on Wayne's World 2, and that took hold of Shred's creative performance side, which at the time turned towards acting from 1992, even up to the present. And through acting, Shred discovered many jobs he was experienced in the industry as part of natural survival, from stunts to animal training to line producing to directing, from art and set design to lighting. And then through an odd form of osmosis and powers of the universe, Shred created several companies. Dog Dare Events, an event design production company involved in the entertainment and corporate media marketing, was launched, and then followed by the creation of Pira For Hire, a live action interactive promotional company which focused on anything pirates. And that, made up of like-minded pirate enthusiasts from the film industry, and they provided live action shows around the world. And finally, Shred's love for animals and animal rescue and rehabilitation, he created Tropic Exotic Animal Rentals, designed for taking on rescued exotic and domestic animals, and then after rehab, if they can't be released back to the wild or placed with an appropriate animal sanctuary, he would keep and provide for them. And that also led to him becoming a ringmaster for the famous LA Circus, and I think I'm going to pronounce this wrong, and the Vampire Circus. And let's not forget his over 40-year experience as a record holder as Hollywood's fire manipulation breather. And I'm just sharing a little of the adventurous life of Ted Shred. So let's welcome him to the show. Welcome, brother. Thank you for joining us, man, on Live Courageously.
Wow, I didn't realize I did all that, but you agree? I go, yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
hey, I had to cut it down. Otherwise, I'd still be talking an hour from now, man. You have done so many different things. It's pretty amazing to keep up with all the things that you've included in your very, very adventurous life, brother.
I keep promising my mom I'm going to grow up one day and pick a job. No.
I think you're going to disappoint your mom on that thing. I hate to say it. But I'm sure you haven't disappointed her on everything else. So, hey, you can't get them all. I like to ask people two questions in starting the show. And the first one is, because most of my guests are people like yourself who I go back with, and I know, how did we meet? How did we connect, if you remember?
We connected on a film shoot. I got a call and I think Mark Brenniger was doing lighting with you guys, and he brought me on board, and I met you. And I think was it Baggage was the first one, because we've done several films.
Yeah, we did. It's hard to know. It might have been Baggage. You know what I remember specifically when I realized who you were, because you were working crew on the movie, and I think somebody broke the banisters in the house we were filming, and I was like, oh God. And of course you just stepped in and like, don't worry, I can get this fixed, I can do this. And then little by little I was found out all the things you could do. It was like, okay, yeah, you do that, but you got animals, and then you got stunts, and then that was my beginning to know all the things that Ted Shred did. He wasn't just a typical crew member.
Well, I remember on that shoot, a mailbox got backed over. I had to replace the mailbox, and then the banister broke, and when we replaced that banister, we took a section that was out, and we spliced it back in, stained it and everything. No one knew that it was ever broken. It looked perfect. And then from then on, you and I were talking. You were saying, what else do you do? And I started telling you. And then the next thing, I think we brought snakes on another film. We had stunt guys, motorcycles, Harleys we brought in, all kinds of fun.
Here's a picture of you with one of the snakes. Speaking of snakes, and of course you had to put them around me too. That's another time.
That's it.
I wasn't exactly as comfortable with it as you were, but hey. But that's when we started our adventure together. And, and we're going to get into some more of that. It led to you giving my daughter a bird, a cockatiel, when she was little. So, it's been a long time we've known each other. Second question, what does live courageously mean to you? That's the other thing I always like to ask people, since that's the name of the show and why I bring people on.
Being courageous and being a person that lives courageous, to me, is a person that has no fear on anything. A fear of speaking, a fear of standing up for something. They won't back down. They're going to hold their ground, and they're going to do what they believe in. They're going to act upon what they believe in, and nothing else matters. And in a moment, if they have to step in front of a moving car to rescue somebody, that's courageous. Or if it's someone that's saying, hey, don't do that, just speaking up at something like that, that's courageous. And it's hard to find people courageous these days. They're out there, and you've got the show obviously showing it, but compared to the populace of people that are out there, it's far and few. People don't want to get involved. It seems like more people will take a phone up and film things, and they think that's courageous, and it's not. Courageous is to get active in it, not just filming it.
Well, very true, very true. What was it in you? Because, you clearly, just from the little bit of introduction I gave you, you've lived a very adventurous and courageous life, whether it was dealing with big exotic animals or doing stunts or doing fire breathing or doing all that stuff. What was it in you think that, led you to be so adventurous and so taking on challenges and being courageous? What created that in you personally?
I think it was the family background, my parents, my grandparents, and the history that I learned from about my family. I mean, on my mom's side of the family, we had a pirate in the family, and it was a guy named Van Rossum. His last name was Van Rossum. He was a Dutch pirate, Martin Van Rossum, and he actually was a rich brat, apparently in Holland. He was an only child, a very wealthy family. He grew up it looked like a mini castle. I've seen his place where he grew up when I lived in Holland. I went to go check out my roots and stuff like that. And Martin Van Rossum captured a Spanish ship that Spain and Holland were not getting along. He captured a Spanish ship, and on board the ship was a member of the royal household of Holland. It was a boy, and he brought the boy back. The queen knighted him and made him a part of her navy, and he was allowed to keep pirating as long as it was not their allies. Anything that was against Holland, he could pirate, and she gave him another castle. So this guy became kind of a legend and a hero in Holland, Martin Van Rossum, as a pirate. So that started the whole pirate side of me, the interest in pirate.
What year did he live?
That was in the I think it was the late 1500s, early 1600s.
Okay.
It was just before the golden age of piracy. And
wow.
The golden age of piracy was I guess the late 1600s into the 1700s. So he was kind of ahead of his time with that. But it was pretty interesting though. And what was neat is I got to go to the castle that he got from the Queen of Holland, and I saw a painting of him. And my mom was with me, and they kept pointing and saying I look like him, and I kind of did. He had long hair, he had one pierced ear, and I had one pierced ear at the time. I got both now, but I had one ear pierced. And the interesting thing was, back then, a lot of people were not that tall. I'm 6 foot tall. He wasn't. He was only, I think, about 5'9". So he wasn't very tall. But the painting, it was him on an oil painting. And I know we have a postcard because we're not allowed to take flash photography of oil paintings. It deteriorates them. So in the painting, he had these battle drums with pennants of different ships that he captured. And he's leaning across the drums. And there's an old promo picture of me leaning across my drums like that. And it was taken before I even saw the painting. And it just blew my mind. He loved the sound of battle drums on ship, and I became a drummer. And then we went into the bedroom part of his castle, and his whole bedroom was all hand painted on the walls all the way around the room of all these blooming tropical flowers and stuff, which is interesting because my dad was into being like a rosarian. He loved roses and stuff. And I grew up around roses and flowers and plants. I had a landscaping business at one time. And I loved blooming and flowering plants that emit beautiful scents like sweet pea, citrus, you name it. Anything that's got a nice smell, roses. I always had that planted around my houses, by my windows. So my windows came in. But his room, it had all this painted on it, which was interesting. And then inside all these vines and stuff he had painted, he had parrots. And I started laughing because back at home, when I'm looking at this painting in Holland, at home, I had an aviary with over 30 parrots that I rescued. So I already had parrots. And I also had a couple birds of prey. And then we went into the actual area where his bed was, and it was like a small little like box, like little building in this room in the bedroom, and there's a bed there, and it's made for a small guy. And so I laid on, looked up at it, and he has the moon painted on the ceiling of it, and more plants that are blooming at night, and had owls in it. And my favorite pet out of all my birds of prey was my barn owl. I had an owl, and it's like weird. Is this reincarnation? What is it?
How old were you when that when you went there?
I was 18. I just graduated high school, and my mom promised my sister, my sister's a year older than me. She said, when Ted graduates, I'm going to take you guys to Holland. You can meet my family. My mom's Dutch Indonesian. So she came from Bali, Indonesia to Holland right after World War II. And then they set up shop in Holland for a while before they immigrated to Arizona, and where she met my dad. But we got to go to Holland and meet the family. And then we went to go see this castle and stuff, because she was telling me the heritage of my family. And I just started seeing all these weird, interesting things. Because as a kid, my dad was a cowboy. And so I played cowboys and Indians with kids, but I got more into pirates. I got into like Sinbad, which is more the Moroccan pirates. And then I got into Captain Blood and, you know, all these crazy pirate stuff as a kid. I used to make my own swords. So I already had that in me before I even saw that about him too. It was just so interesting that, did this carry over to me?
Maybe, right? You know, that's fascinating that all those layers of everything from pirates to music to flowers would kind of like be
Birds and
part of your birds.
And the drums, you know, he had
Right.
the battle drums, and that's like just blew my mind.
Interesting. But
so-
now, when did you start? Well, since we're going to go with the pirate thing for a moment, since you obviously, you know, went over there and you got to know your history from 1500. When did you come up with the idea to do the pirates stuff, pirate shows? How did that originate for you? And what was the way that you started doing that?
Well, with the pirate stuff, it was like probably, gosh, I was probably like around 18 or 19. I went to a Ren fair, and I saw everyone dressing up medieval and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, I can do a pirate, because pirates have been around forever. I mean, they were around, you know, anyone that would go out on the water and pillage and plunder was a pirate. It could have been the 1300s, 1500s, whatever. And they were doing all the Renaissance stuff. And so I came in, and they go, "What are you?" I go, "I'm a pirate." They go, "Wrong period." Well, they were only thinking the golden age of piracy, and they were not thinking of all the rest of the stuff that went with pirates. So they would tell us wrong period, and they kick us out of the Ren fairs. And then I said, okay, I am going to do the golden age of pirates and show up next time. And we kept doing this. And so pretty soon they would just let us in, take our money, let us walk around for about 10 minutes, then throw us out and tell us wrong period, you're dressed wrong. They kept our money. And it really made me upset. So it drove me to being a real pirate. I just then started being more like, I'm going to keep being this pirate. I'm going to keep coming to these Ren fairs until they accept it and stuff. And it took years for pirates to be accepted at the Renaissance fairs. And out of it, I started thinking, you know, I'm going to get a call someday. When I started my party and events planning company, Double Dog Dare Productions and Double Dog Dare Events, when I started that, I go, I am going to get a call someday for a pirate party, and I want to be ready for it. So I started designing my own new pirate clothes and stuff like that. And then I did it. I got a call, and it was for a bar mitzvah, and they said, we want a pirate theme. So I said, okay, I can probably find some pirates. I made some calls to actor friends and go, hey, you guys know anybody that's pirates? And go, no, we know people do cowboys. We know people do circus. We don't know any pirates. Then I went online and tried to look for people. And being online back in 1992, 93 was kind of crude compared to today. So I'm looking. And of course, there's people saying, oh, I'm a pirate performer. And then you ask them to send you a reel. And when you get their reel or something on it, they've got a stupid costume, Halloween costume as a pirate with a patch over their eye. Everything's got stripes on it, and it just looks so corny. And they're twisting balloon swords for kids. I go, that's not going to fly. I want a pirate show like you would see in Las Vegas at that pirate. I forget what Treasure Island. Treasure Island had a pirate show. So I said, that's it. I'm just got to hire my stunt guys. So all my buddies that were stunt guys, I said, guys, if I make the costumes, will you come in and do it? So I started meeting some of these guys, and we started doing parties and events. Then I met other actors on set that had a love for pirates and stuff. And they started building costumes and coming to me saying, hey, can I be a part of your group? So at one point I have had about 25 pirates all employed at the same time. And I had them broken up in several groups. One group staying in California, doing my local parties. I had a group in Colorado at one time doing the Colorado State Fair. Had another group in Alaska doing that Alaska State Fair. and we were all busy. I mean, and that was because of Pirates of the Caribbean coming out. Everybody started wanting pirates.
And then this is I'm putting up the picture again, Pirates for Hire, the company. This is a bunch of pictures and a picture of you with some other people.
Yeah, those are some radio people that we met in Corpus Christi, Texas. We did Buccaneer Days out there, which is interesting because they celebrate cowboy buckaroos and then pirate buccaneers all together on one weekend. So the first part of the week, they're celebrating the rodeo and cowboy, and the next is a big carnival fair celebrating pirates.
And of course, you can do both, right?
Exactly.
here's you as a cowboy. So you got the cowboy thing down, and you got the pirates thing down. So
yeah, we have a company called Outlaws for Hire, so we do have that also.
That's fascinating. And then I think this is from something you actually did filming, right? This is
this was the pre-shoots for Our Flag Means Death, that new series that's on. I think is it HBO has it, or one of the streaming networks has it, and it's Watiki. I can't even pronounce his name anymore. He's like the most popular and demand writer director guy. He did that movie or he did that series, what we do in the shadows, the vampire series, and he did that movie, What We Do in the Shadows and stuff. And he also does voices and things on Mandalorian. And he's a really good director. And that was one of his productions. And that was the pre-production when we were doing tests with the screens, the video screens and stuff. That was Stargate Studios that did the screens on there. They're really good people.
So, I'm like, there's so much to ask you because you've done so much. But, one of the other things is, besides the, so you got the Pirates, the Cowboys, the Double Dog Dare Company, but then you also do this as well. So
yes,
I'm like, oh my God. So how did that all those pieces? I'm about to show a video. I want to show a short video of the fire breathing thing that you do. But how did that all come together? So, I mean, how did you just kind of keep moving from one thing, from being a pirate to setting up all these different companies and doing all this entertainment in different fields like you did? And then why fire breathing? How did that come about?
Well, it all goes back to my dad and my mom both. My mom and dad were very open-minded, good people. They and nothing against people that have the regular day job thing. My mom and dad own their own businesses. They've always been entrepreneurs and stuff. Before my dad, my dad owned Arizona Restaurant Equipment Company. Prior to that, he was a stuntman and actor. Did a lot of old westerns like 26 Men, Paladin. He worked on God, what else? Like the Lone Ranger, Cisco Kid, Gunsmoke, all kinds of old western films. He was a cowboy at heart, horse trainer. So I heard a lot of his stories about how much fun he had when he was on set, the people. His best friend was Steve McQueen. He hung out with guys like Clint Eastwood. I mean, he knew a lot of Lex Barker. Excuse me. Jacques Mahoney. A lot of people don't remember Jacques. Jacques Mahoney was one of the most famous stunt guys, and he was the stepfather to Sally Fields. And Jacques Mahoney at one point became Tarzan. And when he was playing Tarzan, they didn't want him to do his own stunts. So my father ended up doing stunts for Jacques Mahoney. And a lot of these people hung around our house. They come visit us and stuff. We meet all these people, and they were my dad's friends. So, to me, it was just dad's friends. But I got to hear all the stories. And I said, wow, that got my interest. They're entertainers, they're performers, they're actors. But then rock and roll. I started really listening and getting into rock and roll music. My grandmother, on my mom's side, my Oma, she gave me a radio. I remember as a kid, as I probably was like 5-6 years old, and I was turning on FM radio and listening to music. And then the rock and roll is there. And there suddenly, through that, hearing all these bands, one band came out and popped in my mind, and everybody didn't want anyone to listen to them. They were the devil. They were the worst. And it was Kiss. And because everyone was against Kiss, this is probably now like around 1974, 75. I wanted to go see them. And I told my mom and dad, I was just a kid. I got to go see Kiss. I got to go see Kiss. My friends are all going to go. So I asked them, I said, can I go? My mom drove us there. My friends, they let us go. I think we were probably like 13 or 14 years old. So it was at Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Phoenix, Arizona. I grew up in Phoenix. And actually, I grew up in a little town called Goodyear outside of Phoenix. But we went to the concert, and lo and behold, my cousins are working as ushers, and they're at the front of row up at the front row, standing there, making sure people are standing back from the stage. So I work my way up to them, and I work my way up there, and I say, "Hey guys," and they go, "What are you doing here?" I go, "Kiss, man." They're like, "All right, here, sit here." And there was front row seats that were left open. I guess some people got tossed out, and they moved us to the front row, my friend and I, and we got to watch Kiss. And at some point, we ended up being backstage at one point and meeting him and stuff. And it was like I saw Gene Simmons blow fire. And I saw the audience go crazy, and I could feel the heat of that fire hit. I felt like it was hitting me, but it was just the heat from it. He's up on stage, and I could smell the air. I go, that smells almost like charcoal or kerosene or something. And I go, I bet you I could do that. And again, I have no fear because I was brought up, around exotic animals. My dad being a stunt guy, and I had no fear of anything. And
which is back to the thing about being courageous. It was in your blood. It was in the way you were raised by your family, right? So
it was. They told us, don't have fear of doing anything. Do what you want. Don't listen to what others have to say. Don't listen to other. Everyone has an opinion, and they're going to share it with you whether you like it or not. Just get used to it. Let it be like water. Be water on a duck. Let it just roll off you, whether it's good or bad. Just do what you want to do. So I went home.
That day, watching Kiss planted the seed for you to kind of get into doing fire. I
taught myself how to eat and breathe fire because we didn't have videos online that taught you this stuff. There was nothing in a library on books on it. So it was trial and error. And knock on wood, that's my table. I never caught on fire, never burned my hair. I had long hair since I was like 9 years old. So I always had long hair. I was going to ask you
about that. You've always had that look. Yeah.
The mustache and goatee came in my my mid 30s.
Interesting.
But I had the long hair always, and I never caught on fire. And I started off with like the charcoal lighter, but when I did it, I go, it can't be good for you. I did have common sense. I knew about things. I knew about safety and stuff. And I said, I'm putting this in my mouth. It is toxic, and it could come back and burn me. Two, sure. It's going to get absorbed in my mouth. So it's going to be bad for parts of my body. So I went to my doctor, and I had a really cool doctor as a kid growing up named Dr. Norman. And he looked like Clint Eastwood, drove a Corvette, and had hot blonde nurses. I mean, he was like the ideal doctor for a young guy to want to go to. And so I went to Dr. Norman. I said, hey, Dr. Norman, I'm going to show you something that I taught myself. It's fire breathing. He goes, what? And I told him, I said, can you tell me what could happen with this? So I did it for him. He goes, dude, that's insane. I felt the heat all the way here. He goes, first of all, look at what you're using. So he took the charcoal. I looked at it, goes, oh, you can't use this. It's bad. He goes, hold on. He got a couple medical books. He goes, take these and read this. It's about your whole circulatory system, how stuff absorbs in your body and what it could damage. He goes, I would find chemicals that are less harsh, and you're going to have to do research. Go to the library and stuff. So he told me, and he was right. And I went and I did all the research and learned about flashpoint of fire and how things can come back quicker and light my face on fire and stuff burns slower. So I found out the safest thing to use is lamp oil. And to get 99 to 95 proof lamp oil, you have to almost order it. I order it from Lamplight, and I get the oil, and you could pour it on the ground and put a torch to it. It's not going to burn. But if it's on a wicking, like clothing or hair, it could catch fire. If it's in a mist form, it will start and ignite and carry itself. So with that, and with the laws of physics, I started learning how to fire breathe better and better and working at it. And it just came to me that if I move that torch out of the way, I could get bigger flames. And with that, I got a record at 28.5 feet. I did it in the movie The Crow 2. Not the good one with Brandon Lee, God rest his soul. I was in the second one, the kind of crappy one. But I still did the fire breathing in.
Well, at that point, let us watch this your fire breathing video right now. Let me put this up. And here we go.
Chamacos, niños en casita, pongan mucha atención que tenemos al tragafuego de regreso. Recuerden, no hagan eso en casita. Es cierto, Sergio, es cierto.
I think that's an ad. Let's see.
That was eating 4 torches at once there.
La Scorpion King también, ¿verdad? Right?
De los efectos de la película. Él se llama Ted. Thank you for coming, Ted. My French is better than my English. Pero importante mencionarles, esto que va a ser él tiene el récord que estaba antiguamente era de 9 pies.
He was speaking too fast. I really didn't understand what he was saying.
Well, we're gonna watch it, but
welcome, my friend. Okay.
So basically what you're going to see me do here is I'm going to do some fire retention, and that's lighting my hands on fire, lighting my tongue on fire, lighting torches off it while it's lit. Then you're going to see me do fire extinguishing, and that's eating fire. There I'm lighting my tongue on fire, and I'll light a torch off my tongue there. And people ask, how does that work? Does that hurt? The outside edge of your tongue has most of the nerves on it. The center really doesn't. When you see guys that extinguish cigarettes on their tongue, like the tough guys in some of the movies, it'll leave a little mark and be gone in about 2 or 3 days. But the torches don't, and stuff like that. You'll see me extinguish the torches with my transferring there with my hands, and my fingertips are still on fire. As long as that flame is going up, the heat's going up with it. But if you leave it too long, it will burn you. And those are metal rods that they're on, that they eventually get hot when they're flipped over. But when the flame up, like right now, they'll be getting warmer. Now I'm retaining fire just on my breath, and that's just putting the torches in there and having the fumes still in there. Holding torch with my teeth. You hold it too long, your teeth crack, which is not good. My teeth are still perfect, thank God. And there I'm doing the fire extinguishing with the fire eating, and that's actually putting the torch in your mouth and extinguishing by closing it off in the oxygen. And then I did a fire transfer by using just the fumes in my mouth with the flame still burning. Now this is going to be the fire breathing, and this is what a lot of people like to come see. The terms back in the old days used to call this the volcano, the blast. I just call it fire breathing, or some people call it the dragon too. And I put the lamp oil in my mouth, and I got to blow it like a mist, like playing the trumpet. You got to hold your lips together and blow it in a fine mist across the torch. You see me move that torch where I can get a bigger distance with it. But keep in mind, I'm on a sound stage here, and right above me are lights. And I think when I did this at one point, I don't think it's on camera. We got so hot that one of the gels in one of the lights up above me shrunk a little bit and fell out of its frame.
Huh.
And they had me blowing at an angle straight at the camera, which it's harder to get a big flame that way. I go up in about a 45-degree angle, when it explodes and ignites, the heat carries it up farther, and that's where you get the big distance and the big fire. So the more straight up you blow it, and if the air is colder in the room, you got hot air meeting cold air, it rises really fast. You get a big blast out of it. But the other thing you got to worry about, it is also like a tornado. It can turn around and come back at you with hot air meeting cold air. When that happens, it come back. And I could kind of judge it from all the years of doing it. I feel it get close to my nose, and I can feel that heat, and I know it's too close. That's why I know to cut it off, because I've had some pictures. People got like right up to my lips, the fire coming out. But if it does come back with the oil in there, it's not going to ignite, knock on wood. But if it's getting down to the mist of it, it could come back in there with the fumes, and it could cause a minor explosion, go down into your lungs, burn the fibers in your lungs, and then it's a big bummer because you'll have like chronic pneumonia the rest of your life. Your lungs will always have fluid in them. So it's never happened to me. I've never been injured by it. And what I found out too, go ahead.
Go. I was going to keep going. We're going to answer your question.
Okay. So what I was going to say is Dr. Norman, God bless his heart, when he turned me on to these medical books and I did the research, I love to read, and the library is one of my favorite places. So I went to the library and read all these books about the circulatory system. I found out that drinking a lot of water or even a beer, just to get your your urinary tract going, start pissing, that's a good time to start doing the fire breathing, because whatever's going to get absorbed in your mouth will get through your system. It's going to go to your liver and kidneys first. That's where anything gets damaged will be in there. So take charcoal tablets to help absorb that and take it through there, and it'll get out of you. So I take like 2 or 3 charcoal tablets before I start, and 2 or 3 for the next 2 or 3 days afterwards. And I drink aloe vera juice, which I found out later through a health food store. It's really good at replenishing your organs and things. It's just good for flushing and keeping your system good and healthy.
How many times would you guess that you've done those shows with fire breathing in your career so far?
Well, I started performing live just out of high school. So I was 18 at that point, and I started when I was 14, and I do it for, for grins and for fun at Halloween parties and things. Kids want me to do, hey, Dad, do your fire breathing. Or I put the makeup on as Gene Simmons and impersonate Gene Simmons doing it on Halloween and stuff. And that was a big thing. But the real performances started when I was out of high school, in bands, on the side, doing promotional stuff at festivals and stuff. So I'm 61 now. So knock on wood, never been burned. I've been in like over 300 films and TV shows and commercials. And I've done fire breathing in a large majority of those, besides being an actor and stuff. So it's a lot. I would hate to try to guess at what I've done. I know that Lamplight really loves me. I've kept them in business for lamp oil.
That's fascinating, man. Well, all right. So now we're gonna pivot to another area because it's just it doesn't stop with the adventurous life of Ted Shred, man. So besides obviously, we looked at the pirates a little bit, we looked at the fire breathing a little bit, but and we didn't get a chance to go music. We'll talk music maybe later too, but
Yeah.
But something that's really near and dear to your heart and has been for a good part of your life is your work with animals, both in rescue and training, in movies. And I know in some of my films, you brought animals like the snake, and you also a couple of other things at different times to the movie, as an animal wrangler. So, you've done a bunch. So I'm just going to throw up a couple of pictures real quick, and then we're going to start. You can talk as we do that. Here's one with you kissing a camel.
Yeah, that's Natalie. And actually, I was teaching her how to give kisses and stuff.
Really?
Put, like, carrots or apple in my teeth, and she'd come up and try to take it, and I'd tell her gentle to her lips, and she'd grab it, and then I let go of it. And so I'd give her a cue of kisses. She'd come up and kiss me, and then I'd hand her a treat. But I start it within my mouth, and just got to make sure they don't bite your face off. And I really have to say, I've been really blessed and very lucky to have, again, my parents. My dad started the ethical treatment of film animals in 1950. My father trained horses. He worked for Roy Rogers, trained trick trigger and parade trigger. Glenn Randall got a lot of credit for stuff, but Glenn Randall didn't do a lot of the work his own. He had other people work for him. My dad worked for Glenn Randall, and my dad saw how hard Glenn was on animals. And my dad couldn't deal with it no more. So my dad basically walked off of Glenn's productions and stuff and left and started ethical treatment of film animals, started teaching people how to treat animals right. Like no one thinks about the old Westerns. You see all the guys shooting and stuff on the horses and stuff. A lot of those horses went deaf from the gunfire going above their head over and over. And they started using quarter loads finally, so they're not as loud. And my dad started packing cotton in horses' ears and put shoe polish over it so you wouldn't see it, and to protect their ears. And then he went into other things of training. Like he worked a lot off of body language, and he worked into encouraging animals to play as part of the work and not starving animals and making them work for treats. I mean, it's one thing to cut back on some of the food, but some of these people literally used to starve their animals and make them work for food. And my father, with his training, he started telling me, you got to look at it like this, Ted. When you train an animal, it's like if you're hungry, you have a hard time focusing. You're going to be edgy. You're going to get grumpy. You're going to snap at people. Animals are the same way as people. There's not much difference between us. He said, you want to encourage an animal to work with you and play with you, and you reward them and break it up. Not always treats, break it up with some hugs and praise. So if there's ever a point where you don't have a treat or run out, they're still going to work for you for that. So break it up with that, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people like to keep the animals on treats all the time because but it's, I don't know. I didn't. I followed what my dad said. And it just has always worked really good for me. I've never been injured by any animal majorly. I've worked with tigers, lions, bears, horses, buffaloes.
So here's just a picture of just some with some of them with tigers, with bears. The many animals that you work with. This is just an example of some of them, right? Bigger animals. So you work with, and you've been on, here's another one with you on elephant.
Yeah.
You work with, huge animals. And you got a philosophy of how to treat them and everything from your dad. And that's an important thing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But, you've been, with everything. I mean, I'm looking at some of the pictures like this. I mean, what is that, by the way? I don't even know what that is.
That's a Salvatore water monitor. This picture was taken by a great producer, photographer, director, Michael Childers. Michael's been around for a long time, very famous photographer and director, producer. He did Falcon and the Snowman. He was the producer on that. But Michael met me and goes, I got to do this book, and I want you with animals in it. But the book is called, what was it? God, I forget the name of it now. But every guy in the book is nude except me. And Michael's gay, super nice guy, gay guy. So his work, he loves naked men. And when I came to the shoot, I didn't realize that. And he says, I brought some wardrobe. He goes, oh, you won't need wardrobe. I go, oh, yes, I will.
So you did it different.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, the book, it's called Hollywood Voyeur. That's what it's called, Hollywood Voyeur. And you can find that it's a photography book. It's great photos, I have to say.
Interesting.
But there's more than props that are hanging out in these pictures, if you know what I'm saying. And
Right.
so I'm a double page centerfold, I think about in the middle, and I'm the only guy with clothes on in the whole book.
And you have to look at it again now that you mentioned that. It's a great picture. I mean, like I said, I've never seen, had no clue what that animal was or reptile was, but
yeah, that was a female Salvatore water monitor. They're the second largest lizards in the world. When she got full grown, she was about 8 feet long.
wow.
And I had her for about 15 years. And she was a credible lizard, really tame and stuff. Kids loved her and everything. But
then
Michael,
even besides big animals, I mean, all the like reptiles, all these little, everything from alligators to, once again, I guess, what are porcupine and what was
that's
the other
an African porcupine. It's a baby there. They get really big, and those quills can get like 2 feet long. I mean, they're huge. The underside of their belly is soft. When they're younger, the quills are softer, but his quills are starting to get harder right there. So you got to be real careful not to get stuck with them. And then the alligator, like people say, I can't believe you could train an alligator. Well, there's more and more videos now. If you Google right now, I just saw a great one the other day where a guy rescued this alligator, and he's got it trained to come to him when he calls it, and he opens his mouth and he gently puts in the chicken. He tells it gentle, and it closes his mouth real gentle and takes chicken from him. So alligators, reptiles, anything can be trained. The only thing I find a hard thing you can't train is a woman when it's a shoe sale at Macy's and they got your credit card. That's a hard thing you can't train. But the hardest animal I think that I ever worked with to train was probably probably zebra. Zebra are kind of tough. They like to nip, bite, and kick, so you got to kind of watch them and stuff. But I did train a zebra to smile on command, and it was fun. It was we're working on a vodka ad, and I was playing with her, and I kept tickling her nose with my hair and touch her, say smile. Pretty soon I just do it, and she'd smile. And there's a picture floating around on the internet of me with the zebra smiling. But one of the craziest ones, I don't think it was on your film. It was another film I worked on. I can't remember what the name it was, but I got hired to bring in cockroaches. And they didn't want the Madagascar hissing cockroaches that you get at a pet store. They wanted the real ones where basically Japanese water bugs are what you see around here and stuff. When you open up the water mains at the house, you see them come up out of there. So I didn't want to mess with the bugs. I mean, God, I mess with a roach. You think dirty and things like that. So I went and I had to go and get 15 cockroaches for this film. And I had to go out at night, and I'm opening water mains going down my street in my neighborhood in Hawthorne. I was living in Hawthorne at the time, and I'm catching by hand all these cockroaches and putting in these containers, bringing them home. And later on, I get home, I'm washing my hands. Like when you grab them, sometimes they spit up and stuff too, whatever, and they get stuff on you. So I'm washing my hands. I go, I could have done that with rubber gloves, No.
I'm not a fan of cockroaches. I grew up in the South Bronx in New York, and every morning when we would wake up, our sneakers would be full of cockroaches, hundreds of them. I mean, hundreds of them. And you'd have to like bang them on the floor and all the
shake them out.
Yeah, they would all go running. And it was just, no matter how many traps you put down, I mean, it was cockroach paradise.
I lived in a band house once like that. And I stepped and I slipped. I thought I stepped on a grape in the kitchen and slipped on it. It was a big roach. This was in Arizona. We get them big there.
Yeah, and then we had I worked in a grocery store when I was like 15, and they go down the basement and all the flying water bugs would go flying at you, and it was oh God, did I hate those freaking things. Matter of fact, I got a movie coming up in a few weeks that we're gonna need some bugs on. So I'm like, I haven't got into it yet as to what they are, what it's gonna be, but we need bugs. So
let me know. I've got some here right now that I did on a video shoot for Doce, I think how you pronounce her name, the rap artist. She's got a video coming out, and she's painted in gold. And they're called death beetles crawling on her face.
Oh,
and
wow.
These death beetles are little beetles you find out in the deserts out in California, Arizona, New Mexico. And if you touch them, they play possum. They roll over and play dead. And that's why they call them death beetles. And they're really cool. So I got 2 of them. And I named them, of course, Ringo and Paul, the only 2 that are alive.
I'll definitely reach out to you on that. I haven't, I mean, you have had hundreds and hundreds of experiences. I think besides you giving the snake to me, I've had like maybe 2 other experiences. Like this is me on a camel once, which was rather interested in, of course, riding horses, but I haven't really, I can't say that's about the extent of my experience with animals outside of
You
the pets that
you
you
met Willow,
provided
my
to me.
wolf. You met Willow, my wolf.
Yeah, so that's a picture. Matter of fact, this is on the set with you and
Yep.
Willow right there, right?
Yeah.
What an
That was,
incredible animal. And
yeah.
you
She
know,
was
and
arrested.
is this Willow too?
That's Willow also. Yeah. She was
Yeah.
145 pounds. On her hind legs, she stood 5'9". Look at those paws. They're the size of my hands. I mean, she was a big wolf. And I had to get her on a picnic table to get her on my shoulders for that picture. One thing about wolves too, they don't really like it if you lift them up and their feet are off the ground. They don't mind standing on their hind legs, but when you try to lift them, get their feet off the ground, they'll try to nip you and bite you. So it's rare to get a wolf up on your shoulders like that. It takes a lot of trust for them to trust you to do that.
It's a beautiful picture, and she was a beautiful animal. And I know
Yeah.
to kind of pivot a little bit, I know there was a little bit of a time when you were doing some speaking at different high schools to kids about bullying, and you used to bring Willow with you when you did the speaking, and just to share that message of not bullying kids. So tell us a little bit about that, because I know that was one more of the many things that you've done.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is I love educating kids. I should have been a teacher. Maybe I'll be it when I retire. But
You finally make your mother happy. You do that, man.
Exactly. She doesn't worry about if I'm gonna catch on fire that way.
That's right.
But no, I love educating kids, and when I can educate people in general about animals and have a little more respect and honor animals, because they're incredible creatures, all animals. And I have not found, I mean, even down talking about the roaches and stuff, they actually can be trained. All these animals can be trained and stuff. So I decided with Willow to take her with me and do lectures and speak to kids about wolves and things. And a lady saw me with Willow, and she's the niece of Ava and Jaja Gabor, and her daughter was going to a high school in Camarillo, and she did a report on bullying. There was a movie that came out called Bully, I think, and they were all talking about it. It was all the talk about back then. And so her mom reached out to me. She says, I watched when you were talking to the kids. My daughter told you about the bully program that they were doing at their school. You started talking and comparing about safety and safe in numbers, and how wolves are in packs or safe in numbers. They take care of each other. They protect. She goes, did you ever think about doing that as a lecture for kids at a school? Because my kids and all the kids came in it was at a grocery store of all places we met. She goes, they all started listening to you, and they were all like empowered by the fact that they are more power and strength in numbers because of what a wolf does. And I said, yeah, I could do it. She goes, would you come and speak to our kids? I go, well, I would love to do it, but I don't know how I'm going to put this together. So again, I make a trip to the library. I love the library. And I looked up things about psychology. I looked up stuff about a lot more about wolves and their behavior and other animals. And then I looked about child psychology, and I kind of put together a neat little program using things that were common sense, that were related to animals, that us as humans, we do the same thing too. But if we don't think about it, it may not come to us immediately. So I tell kids to think like animals do. Be always prepared and ready. Keep a view of what's going on, and always know you're always safer in numbers. If you can stay in numbers, you got each other's back. That's what animals do to protect you. That's why they travel in packs, herds, flocks, is because they're watching each other, watching out for each other. And if something happens, one person can make sure to get help for the other or something like that. It's the buddy system as a group. And so I put this whole program together, and I taught kids this at this school, Camarillo, and they loved it. I spoke to, I think, like 12 classrooms. They brought them in at different times at this auditorium, and we spoke to them. And I had Willow there and used Willow as an example. And I, of course, got their attention. And at the end, they all get to pet her and meet her. And it worked out really good. And it got to Matt Lauer. And Matt Lauer reached out to me and wanted to bring me on Good Morning America. And we're putting all this together. And I forgot what happened. Something happened news-wise. It was really big. They were going to delay it. And the next thing you know, Matt Lauer's caught up in some scandal. He was gone.
Well, too bad, because I remember when you talked to me about that, it was such a cool thing that you were doing, talking to those kids and just, using Willow, once again, just throwing up a picture of Willow. I mean, it just gets your attention. She just gets your attention. So I know for them,
Yeah.
And then to take that message and talking about animals, I'm going to pivot a little bit because I also know, we covered a couple of pieces of both your dad's principles about how to deal with animals in movie sets and in how to deal with them in life, and then your background of doing rescues and taking all these exotic and other kinds of animals in and rescuing them. That you have a very special place in your heart for rescues and rescuing animals. And then I know recently there's been a little bit of an incident that raises that issue, and so why don't you share that and just tell people a little bit about that and what your take on it is.
Well, if you guys are watching social media, it's been popping up on Instagram, Facebook, and other places. There's a gentleman by the name of Cody Joe Roberts. And this gentleman is in Wyoming. He owns a company called C. Roberts Trucking. And I think it's Daniel, Wyoming is where he's at. And he went out on his snowmobile. And wolves are getting reintroduced in a lot of places in the United States again, because wolves were almost completely wiped out of the U.S. at one point. Excuse me, let me take a drink here. Oh, by the way, people see me drinking this. I got to do a quick plug. Deadly Grounds Coffee. GetDeadly.com. Great coffee.
One more time. What is it? You have to get them to come on my show as a sponsor.
Absolutely. His name is Tom Leolius. Tom used to be a producer and director, worked in commercials here in Hollywood, and now he's back east, and he owns a coffee company, and he makes the best coffee. He's got over 300 flavors of coffee, and they're great. The one I'm having right now is called Graveyard Grog. It's a peanut butter chocolate coffee. It almost tastes like coffee with a Reese's peanut butter cup in it. It's really
sounds
good.
Interesting. And the name of the coffee is what?
Deadly Grounds Coffee, and his website's getdeadly.com.
GetDeadly.com. Well, he's just got a free plug and he's got a free advertisement. Good for him. You're definitely a fan.
So getting back to with that, it was this guy Cody Joe Roberts. He saw a young wolf pup, and understand that it's not an adult yet. It's a subadult. It's probably less than a year old. He chases this wolf down till it's exhausted, and he ran over it with his snowmobile, probably breaking its hips or something. So he made it incapacitated, the animal. He taped its mouth shut with red duct tape and its feet up so it couldn't hurt him. And then he scruffed the animal, threw it in his truck, took it into town, paraded it from bar to bar, showing it off, making people take pictures with it. There's a picture on my Facebook page. I put up a whole thing about him on there, and he's taking pictures with it. And he's basically torturing this animal. It's in pain, it's injured, and he's doing this to this animal throughout the whole evening. And finally, at the end of the night, he decided he was done with it. He took it out back and shot the animal and killed it. So the animal was in pain and tortured and abused by this guy. He, by the law for animal abuse, only got fined $250. There is a huge outrage of wolf lovers and people that support wolves that are friends and fans of mine. And we're all out there to try to change this law, because a lot of wolves are being abused and a lot of them are being killed. You don't hear a lot about it. They try to, and the thing is too, I work with wolves and I work with coyotes and I work with our park and recreation people. I work with forestry service people, and I've talked to them about controlling population in certain areas. Spay and neutering. You do it with feral cats. You do it with dogs. You can do it to a coyote and a wolf. You can spay and neuter and cut back population if that's what you need to do. But places like Wisconsin, and now don't get me wrong, and I don't want to piss off Harley Davidson, but Harley Davidson is a big company. And I ride Harleys. I've had Harleys most of my life. And the one thing I noticed about Harley Davidson, they use an eagle and a wolf to represent freedom. And it's their spokes animal on their t-shirts, on their logos. And so if you always see wolves and eagles for freedom, for being patriot, American, the wolf, freedom, run with the pack. But they go in their state of Wisconsin, they allow people to go into the dens in spring and gas the wolf pups and kill them. They pump gas in there and they die of suffocation, and they kill off the pups that way. And it's horrible. They let people go into these dens and take them out and butcher and kill them on the spot, chop their heads off. And then coyotes, Glendale, California still allows people that can get a permit to get a bounty for coyotes. You get a permit and you could go out and shoot and kill coyotes. You cut their noses off and turn them in, and they pay you for the noses that you turn in. And it's horrible. You don't have to kill these animals to control the population. There's a lot of ways you can do it. You could go ahead and you can dart them. I mean, you see people do this all the time, and they can spay and neuter these animals and cut back the population on it. The other thing is they're always looking for food, especially coyotes. And people here worry about coyotes with their pets and stuff. Best thing to do is keep your pets in. Coyotes are getting more bolder and they're hungrier and looking for food. So they're not just going out at dusk till dawn. I mean, they're going out during the day now looking for food and stuff. And pets are an easy source of food for them. If they're small enough, they will grab them. And the thing is that
I was up at a friend's house last night in Burbank, and we saw out his porch coyotes right up in the woods right next to his house. And it's like a condo complex. So right outside the condo complex was, coyotes, a pack of coyotes. But yeah, so you're right. I mean, they're
beautiful animals, and they do a great job. They keep down the rodent population. They eat rats, they eat squirrels, they eat rabbits, things that can be destructive to gardens and things like that too. But, and people look at them as lovely. I mean, I love rats. I love rabbits, squirrels. I had them all as pets. And it's funny, as my wolf used to get along with my rats. I used to let my rats climb on her. Willow was so good.
Yeah. So we're very different on that issue, because once again, growing up in the South Bronx, I was not a fan of rats. I have to tell you, no way in the world did I like rats.
I'm going to tell you something. A new respect for rats. You might like this. There is a giant rat from Africa called a pouch rat. It actually has a pouch. It carries its babies and stuff. They use them now to sniff out landmines. When they go to places where there used to be war and stuff and combat and stuff, they look for the landmines to protect animals and people from stepping on them. They used to use dogs to do it, but sometimes dogs can trip it and you blow the dog up. The rat is not heavy enough to trip it. And they would put these rats and they would give them the smell of gunpowder, whatever's in the landmine to make it explode explosive. And they treat them to look for it. So they put them put strings across these fields and put a little washer and a little leash on the rat, let the rat walk lines back and forth like a grid. And then find something, he starts digging for it. They stop, they go out there with a metal detector, find it, and they disarm it. But these rats now are being used to clear landmines and stuff, and they're using them also for search and rescue. They can mount little mini cameras on them now and turn them loose into rubble where there's been earthquakes and stuff, and they get places looking for people, and they're trained to go after the smell of people's breaths, the carbon monoxide when they exhale. So if they can find a living body, they'll find it, and they'll have a camera to see it.
See, that's why when I met you on my movie that time, and you were a grip, it was like only someone like you would know all this. I mean. It's just amazing the breadth of knowledge that you have on a lot of things, but animals especially, and the work you've done with them. So, well, thanks for sharing all that, Ted, with the animal stuff. Of all the animals that you work with, what was the most challenging or dangerous that you would say in both, using them in movies or just in general dealing with them? What was the one that you were like had to be most on your toes to deal with when you were dealing with them?
Well, as a kid, I got around bears at an early age. There was a little tropic garden zoo in Phoenix, Arizona, and I rescued a bear from there. I had to help find a home for it. So her name was Lollipop. She was a black bear. So I had really no fear of bears. And then my dad had friends that would come over that would bring animals that would come visit us that were traveling with circuses, rodeos and stuff. So I was exposed to a lot of stuff, chimpanzees, monkeys, had monkeys of my own and stuff. But when I really got to work with the big cats, lions and tigers, I thought, wow, this is going to be really hard. And it wasn't. They're really great animals. And it just, everything my dad told me is watch their body language, take the time, process. You don't walk right in with them. You let them see you outside, feed them from outside the cage for a while, let them get used to you. And then one day you're just going to have to go in and see how they react with you and be prepared and have a backup. I don't carry a gun. I very seldom have a stick in my hand or anything like that, but I usually have pepper spray on me or bear spray, we call it. And I've never had to use it. Knock on wood again. I have never been injured. No scars. I mean, I got little scars here and there from iguanas, nails, parrots, little parakeets that get right in here. And they hurt more than anything, these little parakeets and stuff. But the lions and the tigers, I've never been injured by them, or the bears. I've had friends of mine that have been, but I don't know. I guess if I follow what my dad says, I take time, have patience. My father used to always say, the same respect you want, give the animal. Don't push them. Don't shove them. Don't, encourage them, reward them that they're doing good with hugs. When you can hug them, when you tell them they're good, give them a food reward, but always reward them for doing something good. And if it's just partially where you want them to go, it encourages them to go that next level, and you can take there. But keep in mind too, not all animals are going to do everything. It's just like kids. Some kids are good at sports, some are good at math, some are good at art, some are good at drama. Not all animals are good at everything. So sometimes we have to match animals and find animals that look alike. That one's good at jumping and climbing. The other one's good at just laying there being next to a person. One maybe can look fierce on camera where the other one doesn't, and you just got to look for what the animal can do and can't do and work with it, their abilities and stuff, and just don't push it. Just, be lax with it and don't overdo it. And when they give you signs when they're tired or when they don't want to work, back off. And I think that's what's protected me, where I've never been injured.
That's so cool, man. That's amazing. Truly amazing. We got about 5 more minutes, so I want to kind of.
Oh, wow. It's got quick.
It's like, what happened to this hour? Another thing that you've done, I'm just going to throw up, is Here We Go Shred, doing some circus stuff. And, how did that come about? And what was that like? How did you get into that?
Well, the one whole picture of the circus and stuff, you're going to love that. That's a video there that we did. And the guy in the black tuxedo with the top hat, that's the great legendary producer, musician, songwriter, Alan Parsons from the Alan Parsons Project. And when he was a young age, I think he was like 18 or 19, he was the engineer on the Beatles' Abbey Road album. And then when he got older in his 20s, he did the Dark Side of the Moon album for Pink Floyd. And wow. That's Alan Parsons. And that's his son-in-law that was sitting next to him there. I met Alan and his family a few years before that was done. And I ended up working with him on a music video, and it was a circus themed video. So the people at LA Circus, that's my friend Winnie McKay and Chester Cable, great people. LA Circus is like the circus family of Hollywood. I mean, anything that you need circus or any circus film or carnival film. We did Carnival together. We did Greatest Showman. We did Water for Elephants. All these films, that's their tents, that's their equipment, all their decor. It's all owned by LA Circus. So Winnie would call me and say, hey, I need to book talent and stuff, and I don't want to deal with it anymore. Would you do it? And I said, sure. And I was already working as a ringmaster for her. We would, LA Circus would actually do a charity circus with different charity groups, and we would become the circus of that group. And it was like a food drive. We would be the food drive circus, whatever, and that would be the name of it. And then we come out and put on a circus, and I would be their ringmaster. And my whole gimmick was, because I do the fire eating and fire breathing, they introduced me as circus's hottest ringmaster, Ted Shred. I'd walk out, I'd blow fire, I'd eat the torch, I'd hand off to one of the showgirls. They walk off, and I welcome everyone to the circus, talk about all the great stuff you're going to see. Now let's go on with the show. And I go into it, and I loved it. I love being the ringmaster. I tell people my rock and roll days, I was a drummer. I should have been a front man. I should have been a lead singer. I just didn't have the voice for it, but I love being that front guy. So being the ringmaster came pretty natural.
I mean, you've done just so much. And as we wrap up in the last 2 minutes, anything you want to finish us up with, and share with the audience what you're doing in the future.
Yeah.
Obviously, people can reach you at piratesforhire.com, which I threw up on the screen for people if they want to reach out, and anything else you want to share.
Yeah. The best one is Double Dog Dare, DoubleDogDareEvents.com. That one goes to me also. That's the event planning business. And with the event planning business, we do marketing. We work with film, TV, music videos, photography. We supply all live talent. We have props, decor. My partner is Eric Elkheim. He owns LA Party Works. Eric just got doing a fabulous bat mitzvah for his daughter at the Elks Lodge in Pasadena last weekend. Oh my God, it blew everybody away. But we have carnival rides. We have all kinds of fun stuff. And between my contacts, my team, LA Circus, LA Party Works, and my company, Double Dog Dare Events, we can do anything. We can come up with any, and we have. We've had clients come to us from LA Kings to Live Nation to Rolls Royce. I mean, people come to us for marketing, promotional ideas. Then I get a lot of private people at one kids party. I got a couple kids parties coming up. We're going to have pirates at. We're going to do a petting zoo at another one. And we can do anything. And I can put educational programs together like we talked about earlier. I can bring animals in. I can bring performers in. We can teach and do an educational program for kids, for young adults about all the stuff that we've just talked about. And we've had different themes and names for them. You can run away at the circus and learn circus tricks and all kinds of fun stuff.
So to kind of finish it up, if no matter what you want, as I found out many years ago, somehow Ted can find a way to make it happen, whatever it is. I mean, and you know, whether it's in the animal world, stunt world, you name it, vehicles, motorcycles, you name it. So if you want to reach them, Double Dog Dare events.com, you can reach them and contact them to get, you know, anything. And definitely, hey, Ted, I mean, I'm just still blown away after all these years of all the things you do and continue to do and all the stuff that you're into, man. It's so cool to know you and call you my brother, man. Can
I mention one thing real quick?
Sure.
One thing we didn't mention, when I was in Alaska, and I just want to bring this to people's attention, there were a group of kids that were homeless, and I started an organization there with some friends of mine, Jerry McCann and Kevin McCann. It's called Haven, and it's for homeless kids in Alaska. They have an organization up there. We started about 10, 12 years ago with Haven, and it took off all across Alaska, and we got homeless kids off the streets and living in the woods back in abandoned vehicles. When winter comes, they freeze and they die. People don't think about that. These kids are stuck there. They don't have passports. They don't have money. They can't come to the lower 48 where it said, they tell me, think of Alaska as like an island. We're trapped between Canada, the Arctic, and the ocean, and we're stuck there. So when winter comes, they're lucky if they survive winter. And we created this company called Haven out there for homeless kids in Alaska.
Well, that's a great thing. And overall, I got to put up this thing from you because it kind of sums up all the stuff that you're about. And that's this. and that kind of sums it all up, man. It's all
very
good. It's all freaking good.
John, you live courageous. I have to say that. And you interviewed me, but I got to say, guys, this guy is a mentor to me. I should point this way, so it's like next there. He's a mentor to me. He is a great speaker, great guy. He's a great influence, and I've learned a lot from John Duffy. So, and I'll tell you, if you're doing a film or production, he can direct. He's the most incredible line producer around, and he's a good actor. Look at that picture back there behind him. That's him as a tough guy, man.
That's right. That's
he's got a big heart.
With the gun,
John Duffy's got a big heart.
Oh, thank you so much, Ted, for those kind words, brother. I appreciate you, and thank you for being on the show. And you know, we got to work together on something real soon.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if you want to come back on your show again sometime, we'll do 100%. It. Or if I do something, come out to one. I'm doing a live performance somewhere, and we'll do a live show.
Oh, I'd love to. Well, I look forward to it. Well, let me close out the show, and thank you once again, Ted. Thank you for those kind words, brother. And we'll definitely be talking.
You got it. Thank you, John. Thank you, reviewers and stuff. And if you guys haven't subscribe, please. He's great.
Yes, please. Thank you. Yes, subscribe to YouTube, my Live Courageous channel. Thank you, Ted. Have a good one.
You got it. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Hey, well, hope today's show with Ted Shred inspired you about how to live courageous, how to be adventurous, how to not be afraid, and all the great things he's doing with animal rescue and taking care of animals on movie sets, helping the homeless kids up in Alaska, and speaking out against bullying, just a whole range of things that Ted did. So I hope he inspired you. And if you haven't seen the previous 72 podcasts, go to my YouTube channel, and you can go to Live Courageously and check in, subscribe, please subscribe. And I'm going to be coming up with a website pretty soon called Live Courageously, coming live on April 22nd. I'll be sharing that. And then join me next week for my next Sunday show with a very courageous woman, Risa August, and her book, The Road Unpaved. So join me next Sunday at same time, 3 p.m. on all these places, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So until I see you next week, have a great week, and God bless.